English 7, Quarter 1, Week 2. Poetry Basic Elements. This is the focus of Week 2. Matatag Base. Learning Competency. Analyze literary texts as expressions of individual or communal values within. Lesson Objectives. Share specific thoughts or insights on Filipino values discussed in class. Write a short prayer showing the elements of poetry. Analyze the given poem according to the sign, concept. Share your ideas and thoughts about the significant concept from the poem and relate it to your specific local identity or Filipino identity in general. Poetry. Playing with words in acronymic style. Direction. Think of words or phrases that start with each initial letter and are relevant to the topic of poetry. These words or phrases will be the building blocks of your acronym. You will work in pairs, and each pair will present their work in front of the class. Spotlight on strengths. Illuminating your superpowers. Instructions. The class will work in groups consisting of 4 to 5 members. Each student will share a moment from the previous lesson where they think they did the best and why they did exceptional during that time. The group members will take turns sharing and come up with an idea on how they can reinforce their positive attributes. The group will then choose a representative to share their answers and feedback to the class. Imbibe me. Look at the image carefully. What do you see? Describe the image as best as you can. What Filipino value do you think is shown in the image? Why do you think so? When you pray, what do you usually pray for? Share some lines from your prayers and explain why they are important to you. How does prayer play a role in your life? What does it mean to you? Think, pair, and share. Instructions. Form pairs with a classmate and collaborate to write a prayer using the elements of poetry. You can choose to write a free verse poem or a rhyming poem as your prayer. Once you have completed your poems, take turns reading your work aloud to the class. Listen attentively as your classmates present their poems, and be prepared to provide positive comments or constructive suggestions after each reading. Guide questions. How did you feel about writing a poem using the elements of poetry? Describe your experience. Do you think there is a connection between writing poetry and writing a prayer? Explain your thoughts. Did you face any challenges while writing your poem or your prayer poem? If so, how did you address them? Guess the word. Hint 1. A type of horse-drawn carriage or a traditional Filipino horse-drawn vehicle. It is commonly used. Hint 2. It is commonly used as a mode of transportation in rural areas and small towns in the Philippines. Hint 3. It is 10 letters. So the correct answer is tartanilla. Guide questions. Based on the images shown, how would you describe a tartanilla? What are your thoughts on tartanilla as a vehicle? How does it compare to other modes of transportation? Do you think tartanillas are still commonly used today? If so, where can they be found? What significance does the tartanilla hold in Filipino culture? Brain blossoms, cultivating ideas and thoughts. Poetry is a garden, nourished by the soil of imagination and tended with the care of language as artistry. How did creating the flower concept map help you better understand the concept of poetry? What did you learn about your own experiences with reading, writing, and understanding poetry? while making the concept map. If you were to analyze the poem right now, what would be the first step you take? Basic elements of poetry: forms, line, imagery, sound devices, figurative language, and the theme. Form. Forms refers to how the poem is put together, like its structures and design. This includes things like how it rhymes, the reading of the words, how the lines are grouped into stanzas, and how it looks on the page. Second one is the line, the basic unit of poetry, often characterized by its length, rhythm, and arrangement on the page. Number 3, imagery. Descriptive language that appeals to the senses, creating vivid mental pictures and sensory experiences for the reader. This means the writer chooses words that help you imagine how things look, sound, feel, smell, or taste. Number 4, sound devices. Techniques such as rhyme, rhythm, alliteration, assonance, consonance, and onomatopoeia that create auditory effects and enhance the musicality of a poem. Number 5, figurative language. Figurative language adds depth, nuance, and emotion to poetry. By going beyond literal meanings and inviting readers to interpret and experience the text in different ways through the use of metaphors, similes, personification, hyperbole, and etc. It allows poets to convey complex ideas, emotions, and experiences through imaginative and creative language. Number 6 is the theme. The central idea, message, or underlying meaning of a poem, often expressed through recurring images, symbols, or motifs. How do you look at the context of a poem? Poems often have biographical, historical, and social-cultural context because these contexts greatly influence the themes, style, and messages of the poems. Here are the things you need to remember when identifying them: biographical context, historical context, and the social-cultural context. Biographical context includes the life experiences, background, beliefs, and personal history of the writer. Understanding the writer's biography can provide insights into the motivations, emotions, and perspectives behind their poems. This context may influence the theme, subject, and style of the writer. Personal experiences often shape the themes and emotions explored in the poetry, making biographical context crucial for understanding the writer's perspective and creative process. Historical context refers to the time period, events, social conditions, and cultural movements in which the poem was written. Examining historical context helps readers understand how societal changes, political events, or cultural shifts may have influenced the poet's perspectives and message. And lastly is the socio-cultural context. Refers to the social, cultural, and ideological environment in which the poem is produced and received. Sociocultural context includes factors such as societal norms, values, beliefs, traditions, and cultural identities. These contexts may influence the themes, symbols, language choices, and interpretations of the poem, as well as how the poem is received and understood by different audiences. Practice task. Filipino Heritage by Francisco Balagtas. Our heritage, a tapestry, rich and grand, woven with stories of our native land, from Luzon's mountains to Mindanao's shores, Filipino identity for our source. Guide questions. How would you describe the form and structure of the poem? What do you notice about the length and arrangement of the lines? Did the author use any imagery, sound devices like rhyme or alliteration, or figurative language like metaphors or similes? Provide examples from the poem. What do you think is the main message or theme of the poem? How well did the author convey this theme through their choice of words? What can you tell about the background of the poem? Consider the author's life, the historical period, or the cultural setting when the poem was written. Direction. Work in pair, analyze the poem, and answer the table provided. Tartanilla by Ralph Semino Galan. I miss the sound of hoofsteps, pattering on the pavement like rain. How I long for the sweet scent of summer rain between late dusk and early evening, like croquet, of the frogs, evoking memories lost in the stars. Perhaps the heroes, too, have flown to the skies as comets, acquiring majestic wings no courage can resist, no memory can recall. Describe the form of the poem. How are the lines arranged in the poem? What can you say about how the lines were used? Did the author use any form of imagery? Cite some lines or line from the poem. Did the author employ the use of figurative language? How? What is the central idea of the poem? Is biographical context applicable to this poem? If yes, what analysis can you infer from it? Cite evidence. Is historical context applicable to this poem? If yes, what analysis can you infer from it? Cite evidence. Is social cultural context applicable to this poem? If yes, what analysis can you infer from it? Exit slip 3, 2, 1. On a piece of paper, answer the following. Write 3 things you learned from this lesson. List down 2 things you want to learn more about. Ask 1 question about the lesson. Reflection and learning. The class will be divided into 5 groups. Discuss your most effective learning experiences, as well as areas you believe you can enhance. Afterwards, each group will combine their insights, and 2 representatives from each group will present the answer to the class. Direction. Examine the sections of the poem provided and complete the table by sharing your insights, and then discuss the important themes from the poem and connect them to your own local identity or the broader Filipino identity. A Filipino dream, my spirit. I have a Filipino dream. Stop the war and wild louds of scream. I have a dream not for myself, not a selfish man who thinks of himself. I have a Filipino dream. Sees the pain of a poor at the stream. 3 stars are united as one. My dreams and love are bounded as one. Context, evidence from the text, and explanation are the reasoning for the biographical, historical, and the social cultural. And that's it. Thank you.